welcome to the second lesson on this B18 topic. Lesson 1 was on the human population. Lesson 2 is on pollution. So you have your do now here. Please do give a go for every single question, because if you make a mistake then correct it, you are more likely to remember it long term. Okay, pause the video now and click the do now for me, please. So here are your answers. Numero uno, the human population is increasing. The second one, why is a human population increase bad for biodiversity? Well, as we said, more global warming. Therefore, the ice caps are melting, therefore habitats destroyed. Less biodiversity. More mining and more homes means more destruction of habitats. We're also using up resources a lot faster. So a difference between aerobic respiration and photosynthesis, there's several. One is aerobic respiration is exothermic, meaning that it releases energy, and photosynthesis is endothermic. Another one could be aerobic respiration occurs in the mitochondria, whereas photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast. Pardon me. Aerobic respiration uses glucose and oxygen, whereas photosynthesis uses carbon dioxide and water. The opportunities are endless. Alright, 4. A difference between anaerobic respiration in animals versus anaerobic respiration in plants/yeast. In my lesson 1, I spoke about both of these in the do now to try and gear you for this question today. So in animals, it produces lactic acid, whereas in plants/yeast, it produces ethanol and carbon dioxide. 2 uses of yeast, baking and brewing. A similarity between these two reactions are they're both exothermic. They both occur in the cytoplasm. They both require glucose. The 3 enzymes, you've got amylase, protease, lipase. Hopefully you know what each one does. Amylase breaks down starch into glucose. Protease breaks down protein into amino acids. And lipase breaks down fats/lipids into free fatty acids and glycerol. 8. Food tests. Now, there's a lot to write here, so I didn't write it down. But I'm going to tell you about it now, because hopefully you know a lot. You've got your different food tests. Barrett, Benedict's, iodine, ethanol. Barrett, Benedict's, iodine, ethanol. We're going to start with Barrett. Barrett is used to test for protein. It starts off blue and it will go to purple. Notice the pauses there. I'm hoping you are chiming in. Benedict's is used to test for glucose. It starts off blue, begins with a B, starts blue. It will go a brick red colour. Iodine is used to test for starch. It starts off an orangey brown, and if starch is present, it will go blue-black. Ethanol is used to test for fats. It will form a kind of white precipitate in the presence of fats. Graphite can conduct electricity. Delocalized electrons at a free decoded charge. 10. Less people are dying nowadays. The human population is increasing basically because less people are dying. There's a better medicine. So you have better medicines, better technologies. There's a greater food availability. There's a greater birth rate than death rate. A lot less. Moving on. So today we are looking at how are humans polluting the land, air and water. To be exact, today we're actually going to look at air and water, and next lesson we're going to look at land. So we're going to look at the process of eutrophication today and explain the cause and effects of acid rain, because we're going to look at the pollution of air and water. So water pollution, this is where we're going to begin. So water pollution can be caused by 3 main things, 3 main chemicals. Toxic chemicals out of a factory, sewage and fertilizers. Please do record down the 3 causes of water pollution: toxic chemicals, sewage and fertilizers. We are going to look in detail about how fertilizers cause water pollution. This process is eutrophication. Eutrophication means, if actually literally translated, it means well nourished. So I know what you've been thinking. What these lessons have really been missing is Mr. Bowden's artwork. So bear with me, and in a moment I'm hopefully going to treat you for a fantastic bit of art. Also, a big thank you to Oliver Matthews for lending me his book to use during this time. Thank you, Ollie. Okay, hopefully this is still working. So in eutrophication, eutrophication begins with a farmer, this is a tractor, a farmer releasing fertilizers, okay? Releasing fertilizers onto his field. These fertilizers will make their way into lakes and rivers. This bit of water here is lakes and rivers. So these fertilizers will make their way into lakes/rivers. The word they use for that is a word known as leach. So you would say the fertilizers would leach into lakes and rivers. Fertilizers would leach into lakes and rivers. These fertilizers contain nitrates. Okay, these fertilizers contain nitrates. That is going to be incredibly important. Nitrates are really important for growth. So once these fertilizers are in the lakes and rivers, they cause a phenomenon known as algal bloom. That is a massive increase in the amount of algae found in this lake. You get a layer of algae covering the top of that lake. That is known as algal bloom. This has some really bad side effects because once you've got that layer of algae, that algal bloom, the sunlight cannot penetrate that layer of algal bloom. So where you've got your aquatic plants, you've got your plants at the bottom of the lake. They don't get any oxygen, they don't get any light anymore. Light cannot be getting to these plants. Because they haven't got light, they cannot photosynthesize. Okay? Because without light, you cannot photosynthesize. This should not be a surprise to you. Because they haven't got light, they stop producing oxygen. So because they haven't got light, they don't photosynthesize, therefore they don't produce oxygen. This causes a lack of oxygen in the water. Because of that, fish, which absorb that oxygen from the water, die. Fish die. Okay, I'm going to take you through from the top. Farmers fertilize their fields. This fertilizer, which contains nitrates, will leach into the rivers and lakes. This causes a phenomenon known as algal bloom. This algal bloom prevents sunlight from penetrating to the deep depths of that lake and river. Therefore, plants cannot get light and therefore do not photosynthesize. This causes a lack of oxygen. Fish die. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. So, farmers, tractor. Looks pretty much like my diagram. They put fertilizers on their field that will leach into lakes and rivers. Here is a not quite so good diagram, if you ask me, but I'll show you it as well, just in case you need more. So farmers spray fertilizers containing nitrates and phosphates onto their fields. We are mainly going to focus on nitrates at this level. I've included the phosphates bit because actually at A level, you would talk about phosphates because phosphates are used to make DNA. These nitrates make the algae grow, known as algal bloom. Therefore, light cannot reach the plants at the bottom. They can't photosynthesis. They can't produce oxygen. They're dead. The main one that comes to us is therefore fish die. This is the process of eutrophication. Eutrophication, I said, means well nourished. Nourished means you've got a lot of food. So in this scenario, it relates to the algae that are very well nourished right now, but means it's not so good for everything else. Alright, please pause the video if needed. Get down any information relating to this process. Okay, We've already had the drawing. I know. I didn't write the word amazing, it just appeared. Okay, on to the questions. I want you to describe 3 sources of water pollution. So 3 sources of water pollution. One of them is fertilisers. We've also spoken about 2 others and hopefully you've recorded them down. I then want you to explain how eutrophication occurs, so what we've just done about, and the problem it can cause. If you want to do a diagram as well, feel free to jazz it up. Alright, thank you. Pause the video now, answer the questions, give yourself roughly 5 minutes. Answers. For the first one, where am I? For the first one, 3 sources of water pollution: fertilisers, sewage, toxic chemicals from factories. Fertilisers, sewage, toxic chemicals from factories. Okay. Now, on to the big one. Explain how eutrophication occurs. You get farmers using their fertiliser that leaches or runs into the lakes and rivers. You then get a build-up of nitrates, you get algal bloom. You don't need all the points down here to get the marks. I'm not going to keep reading for them all. You can see them now. Okay. The term anoxic is not one that I expect you to use, but it is one you can use. Anoxic means the absence of oxygen or too little oxygen. Okay, moving on. Air pollution. We've done water pollution, onto air pollution now. Air pollution can cause acid rain, smoke and smog. The main one we will focus on today is acid rain. But in the old days, you used to have an old-fashioned smog. It was kind of created by the burning of coal. The kind of carbon particulates that would be released when you burnt coal. Nowadays, you get a photochemical smog, which is actually mainly caused by nitrogen oxide. Nitrogen oxide comes mainly comes from car engines, especially diesel engines. But that's something we will look at in more detail when we look at this topic in chemistry. So don't worry about jotting anything down about this right now. But we need to know about this today. Acid rain. Okay, so acid rain can have a range of effects, and we're going to start off by looking at the effects of acid rain. As the name suggests, acid rain is rain that is slightly acidic. It typically has a pH of lower than 5. It has a pH of lower than 5. It will cause leaves to fall off trees. Why is this bad? I hear you ask. That's because trees are needed for photosynthesis, and if plants cannot photosynthesize, therefore they cannot produce glucose, therefore they cannot grow. Another effect of acid rain is it causes the erosion, E-R-O-S-I-O-N, of statues and buildings. The erosion of statues and buildings gives it that weathered look. This might be something you look at in geography as well. Finally, it causes fish to die. What happens is the acid rain will cause the lake water to become more acidic. The acid rain will cause the lake water to become more acidic, and the fish will die. Okay, into a bit more detail now about the causes of acid rain. If you haven't got down the effects of acid rain, please go back, rewatch the video and jot them down. So, acid rain is caused by 2 main gases. These gases are sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide. It is so crucial that you know the name of these 2 gases and that they cause acid rain. So these 2 gases will be released into the atmosphere. The 2 gases, sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide, will be released into the atmosphere. They will then dissolve into the rain in clouds. They will dissolve in the rain in clouds to make, for example, sulfur dioxide. To make, for example, sulfuric acid. So the sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide are released into the atmosphere. They dissolve in the rainwater. They form sulfuric acid, for example. Okay. Shown below is what we spoke about a minute ago about the effects. Please do use the word erosion where possible. Okay, acid rain formation. bit more detail. Sulfur dioxide, well, not really just a picture to help you. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide are released into the atmosphere. They dissolve in the rainwater, form sulfuric acid, raindrops. Okay, moving on. Okay, what I'd like to do, 4 things. Number 1, draw a diagram to show how acid rain is formed. Number 2, name the 2 gases that cause acid rain. Number 3, state the 3 problems that cause acid rain. Number 4, tell me what chemicals cause eutrophication. Okay, please pause the video now, answer the questions, and then move forward with the video for the answers. By the way, number 1, I've not drawn an answer out this one. I've used all my artistic ability for today. Please do look back at the last slide where it showed a diagram to check. So the 2 gases that cause acid rain. You've got sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. The problems of acid rain, you've got erosion of statues and buildings, lakes become acidic, fish die, causes leaves to fall off trees. Number 3, the chemical that causes eutrophication. I can accept 2 answers here really. Fertilizers or nitrates. Okay, fertilizers or nitrates. It's good to get in the habit of writing fertilizers containing nitrates. So please make that correction if necessary. Okay, on to the last part of today. Just a few exam questions just so you see how it comes up in an exam. Number 1 is a simple, describe how acid rain is formed. It's worth 2 marks. And then the second one, suggest one effect acid rain has on the environment. It's worth 1 mark. Please pause it now and answer the question. Moving on to the answers. Okay, so the first one, you can have a mark for saying sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide. You get another mark for saying they're released into the atmosphere. There's quite a lot of ways here to get the marks, by the way. You can get another mark for saying they dissolve with rain in the rain. Another mark for saying they form sulfuric acid. It's only out of 2. There's a lot of ways to get that. Number 3, you can have it just damages the aquatic environment. You can explain what we've written about. You can have about damage to soil. It's not one we've looked at. It's not one that's actually specifically in your spec, but it is true. You can have about killing plants. You can have about erosion to buildings and statues. Once again, lots of options. Alright guys, well done for completing it. Keep up all the hard work. See you again shortly.